Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Paddle Shanties, and I'm very, very pleased. I'm honoured. In fact, I'm honoured to welcome Maeve Dunne to the programme. Maeve is a prime mover and instigator with Dublin Vikings. But before we start talking about that, and I know you've got lots of plans and interest in lots of different things to do with paddling, tell me about your name, because the only Maeve I know in English is a sort of shortened version of Mavis.
Yeah.
So, it's an Irish name, isn't it? It must be.
It is, Tim. Thanks for inviting me onto your channel, and I feel very honoured. Yes, Maeve is originally Queen of Connacht, the Queen of the West of Ireland.
Wow.
And yes,
well, we are very honoured.
And she was a force to be reckoned with, seemingly.
Yes.
So yes, I actually spent the majority of my career in living in the UK, and one of my pet hates was to be called Mavis.
Yes, yeah. Well, people would naturally assume that's going to be right. I mean, Mavis is I don't know anybody now. When I say Mavis, I had an auntie Mavis. I think. It's just not a name. It's like Gertrude. It's not a name. It's a lovely name, but not in common usage. So you think of it as an old name. But, it's Queen Maeve of the West of Ireland. That's brilliant.
Exactly. So, be respectful.
So what did Queen Maeve? I mean, Queen Maeve must have done all sorts of things. But give me some ideas of what sort of marked her out as a.
Oh, well, she I think from the old tales, she ruled her kingdom with the wrath of iron, and had all her men running around after her. So it's quite old fable. So there's not a lot of known about her, but yes, she's a force to be reckoned with.
And is that how Dublin Vikings operate? No, I'm joking.
Yeah. So, well, actually, it's funny. We've just although obviously we're in lockdown, the crew have been very busy with completing your 10K. Your 10K challenge, your Flying Fish International, and that's been brilliant. It's really been really good. Lorraine set up a WhatsApp group, and everyone has been putting up their posts and tracking their activity. And I have to say, one of my favourite posts that I've seen was one couple in the group, Danka and Mark. They used 6 packs of Heineken as dumbbells.
Brilliant.
So that was one of my favorite little pics of the month. So so I think we've just completed that. So that was good.
I mean, as you know, it's a bit of fun. It's about just keeping people together and stuff, and just having a laugh, and doing some fitness as well, which is what this channel really is about. And I've got to say, I've got to pay public tribute to Lorraine, because all the stuff we've been doing in Ireland, she has been the absolute linchpin. And I've got to say, I'm trying to get her onto this program, and she was saying to me, "Oh, I'm not really a front of house person." I say, "Yes, you are. Yes, you certainly are." So hopefully after this one, I'll be talking to her. Oh, she's great, but she's really.
She passed the baton on to me, but she's great, and she also another thing I want to thank you for is the Zoom sessions that you're doing, and Lorraine has been really good at promoting that as well. I promoted it on our Dragon Boat community Facebook page, which I set up to make sure that clubs knew what was going on in Ireland about stuff that's going on. So that got quite a lot of likes and hits. So thank you.
It's quite funny, actually. I mean, I'm just going to take the focus away from what I'm doing. I'll just talk about that whole fame program. And it's interesting about things my mum would say. My mum was Maltese, and she'd say it's meant to be, and this sort of stuff, very sort of typical Maltese, Mediterranean. But that fame thing, the fitness, flexibility, agility, mobility, energy. I started that in Cyprus 2 years ago, and it really didn't get any traction at all. And yet it's interesting, with a different situation, with the it's only a fitness system and a sort of flexibility and a conditioning system, nothing major about it, but in a different circumstance with coronavirus, it seemed to fit quite nicely. So it's strange how you should just persist if you have a dream or an aspiration or an idea, or innovation. Perhaps it's an innovation, I don't know. Persist with it. it's all these things about sort of getting knocked down 9 times and getting up 10 times. It's that sort of stuff, and that's why I'm talking to you about persistence and resilience and getting things going, you see.
Yeah, I think, I think hashtag stay at home has definitely been a game changer for a lot of people. And I'm kind of hoping that we'll all come out of it, in a positive way. There's been, very sad stories, but I think definitely some really good initiatives and really, I think really heartfelt and positive initiatives. And, they've been some of them. And, I jumped on some of your Zoom classes, and it really helped us, keep our twist on while we were all at home, And I think it's just that community, isn't it? That community that everyone misses. Everyone misses just paddling and being with their friends and family. So there's
a quote I've used. I'm not sure what the etymology is, but it's basically every adversity carries the seeds of an equivalent advantage.
Yeah.
Nobody asked for this situation, and yet I'm not saying you monetize it, because it's not monetized. You're not saying it's checks and balances, but having found yourself in the situation, then we're gonna roll up and wait for it to blow over our heads, or we're gonna do something about it and be a bit proactive and find something and get people together. From my point, I've the privilege of training people in different countries from my back garden, and I've got to know all sorts of people, loads of people in Ireland, loads of people all over the place that I didn't know before. And so really, it's more than an equivalent advantage. For me, the adversity has carried the seeds of a forest of advantages.
Yeah.
But it's not financial advantages. It's just, if you measure wealth in the people you know and the experiences you have, then I'm the wealthiest man on earth. No doubt about it.
Yeah, but also I think if you approach something with integrity and be authentic about it, actually there's not a problem earning from it, if you're doing it from the right reason, and you're doing it, and you're giving a good service, and actually it's not wrong to say, actually let's turn that into a business, and because it's authentically you, and it's something that you're giving as well.
I mean, that may or may not happen in the future, but for right now, I'm quite happy, and because I'm really enjoying the Thursday sessions. So it's more than the equivalent advantage, even just looking for it. Anyway, back to you, because this is about you today. Now, let's talk about Dublin Vikings in a minute. But before that, you mentioned to me when we spoke previously that you spent a long time in Australia.
Australia, yeah. So
what took you there?
So as I said, I was actually living in the UK for over 20 years, and I didn't see dragon boat paddling when I lived in the UK, funnily enough. But I was about to move back home to Ireland, and I got an opportunity knocked on my door to work in Australia. So I thought it'd be rude to say no. Absolutely. So I moved to Sydney, and I lived there for about four years, and as everyone, moving to a new country, I was in my 40s at that point, setting up a new home and setting up a new life, and I thought, oh God, I thought I'd given up on this. I thought maybe I should have gone home. And I remember going over at Sydney Harbour Bridge and looking over and seeing one of these mad looking boats, and I thought, what on earth is that? And I looked it up, and it was, dragon boat. I'd asked someone, and they said, oh, it's dragon boats, it's really popular sport here. And so I looked it up, and I found the Mavericks and the Sydney team, and I looked. There's lots of, there's so many teams over there, and there was, I kind of, I did my Google search, and there was some teams where you better be hard, and then Mavericks were, we paddle hard, play hard. I went, they sound like the team for me. And it was it was the best thing I did, because you instantly have a community of over 20, 40 people overnight, and I because I went over there with work, and my network were worky people. It was such a nice thing, and it's one of the lovely things I love about Dragon Boat, is that you can turn up and you can be whatever you want to be 9 to 5, and no one cares. No one cares less. You know, we're all the same in the boat. And I just made overnight just such a bunch of lovely friends, and you know, they really were there for me when other stuff went on, you know, on personal basis. And I loved it, and so I obviously brought that passion back home with me to Dublin when I came home.
How do they do? This is a big question. How do they do dragon boating in Australia? What I mean by that is I've done some coaching in Hong Kong, and apart from the 2,300, 500-year-old tradition of the Hong Kong fishermen teams and that sort of stuff, and the Chinese tradition, the expats, some of the strength of the expats or the success of the expats teams is, if you're an expat in Hong Kong, dragon boating is what you do, in the same way that you might go to, I don't know, Nairobi and run in the hash in the old days, that sort of thing. So it's like it's an expat community activity. Is it the same in Australia as in Sydney?
As in, well, it's quite. Is it? Yeah, no, absolutely. There is quite a lot of, like, so there'd be a team that were predominantly Chinese.
Yes.
They they'd kind of merged together. But then, but in saying that, it wasn't that cliquey. So our team Mavericks consisted of Australians, New Zealanders, Islanders, and Europeans.
Right.
And I'd always remember, because once you're all in the boat together, you kind of forget, you know. But in the winter months, the only people that were in the boat were the Europeans, because the Aussies would all say, "Oh, it's freezing. I'm going to do my winter sport." So they were all really into their, you know, play indoor sport or whatever for winter, and we were all like in our t-shirts going, "Oh, thank God I'm not getting sunstroke."
Yeah. Bizarre.
So it was definitely like, some of the New Zealanders were definitely and the Islanders definitely had their own way of paddling, and very much their own culture in the boat, which is great. There was one guy, Ao, who's, you know, he was the size of this, and really they were both practically the size of the boat, and you know, you sat behind them at your peril, because, you know, you got drowned by their but like, they pulled the boat, you know, on their own, you know. So they really they taught me how the way of paddling, and, you know, the culture, and even the structure of how they ran it. Australian Dragon Boat Association would literally, you know, they sort of set up and supported an overall structure. And for the specific Sydney teams that I was close to, you know, we had a rack of boats, you know, one rack of boats that was there for everyone's access. And, you know, you turn up, and the only thing we do is agree different time slots, so you could use the slipway. So there was no antagonism. There was just like, get the boat out, you know, support each other. If you turned up late to your session, you jump into someone else's boat, you jump into another team's boat, you know. So so it was good. It was a good structure, actually.
It's interesting. I mean, having same sort of thing. I mean, obviously Sydney's a long way from Hong Kong, but when I first went to Hong Kong, I was amazed, because you're used to the British, quite parochial, almost independent rather than interdependent way of doing the sport. I remember going to Stanley on the south of Hong Kong Island, and same sort of situation. They had the beach, and I think they had a rack that was maybe 20 dragon boats, 4x5.
Yeah.
And obviously it belonged to somebody, but that sort of, it seemed to be a more open, interdependent way of operating. They had their own time slots, and they all those boats for the Stanley Festival. And there's a hierarchy, obviously, and there's permissions and that sort of thing. But it seemed more easier, and the focus was getting out to paddle rather than, sometimes you think it's actually people are trying to stop us from paddling. I'm not talking anything in particular, but I get that impression sometimes with some procedures in some places I've worked at or trained at, and you think, well, there's too many procedures here. I'm not talking about the UK or Ireland here, but I've worked somewhere else or trained people somewhere else, and well, you've got so many rules and regulations here that are you actually trying to facilitate people water sports, or actually stop people doing water sports? Because it's difficult to know, and it's nice to see that. It was right in Hong Kong as well. It's a more open approach. In fact, I was in Singapore, did the Singapore Ocean Cup last year, so it was an outrigger race, where I paddled with British Dragons, which is British Chamber of Commerce, and they had the same ethos: paddle hard, party hard. In fact, that's one of their mantras. And I went there, and I think there's 5,000 people doing dragon boating in Singapore, and they've got boat nurseries. And the boat nursery I was in, the boat park, had, and I lost count, about 45 dragon boats, and that was just one. And I thought, it's just the culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, it's amazing, isn't it, when you travel around how different it is.
Yeah. Well, but I will tell you one thing that seems to be true everywhere you go is we had this dingy little changing area of a what's it called, a container. So the container thing seems to be worldwide.
Well, I've got a container in Cyprus. That's my only property in Cyprus. It's a shipping container. But exactly.
But over there, we literally there would be a bin of paddles. You'd turn up, pick up a paddle, if you didn't have your own, and you just went, jumped in the boat. It was a fairly minimal hassle.
Okay, but then your time in Australia comes to an end, and you come back to Ireland.
Yeah. So, but I have to say, in one thing I loved about another thing I loved about the time in Australia is that we because it's such a bigger community of paddlers, they would have each year the sort of main sort of regatta would be in a different area. So like we traveled to Adelaide and Brisbane and Canberra. Like Canberra is the forgotten state that people forget that's the you wouldn't normally go to these places, but and I think that's another lovely thing about paddling, isn't it, that you do travel with paddling and you have that opportunity. And I also represent New South Wales as well, which was.
Oh, right. No, let's go back to. No, right. No, tell me more about that then. Let's go back to Australia then. Oh, you didn't tell me that before. Tell me about that.
I think it was the last year that I was there. I represented New South Wales for within our one of the main regattas. I think that was I can't remember now. I think it was in Adelaide. And so that was the Prems, so over 40s, and that was great. It was, but again, there was, I think we had 3 divisions, because there's so many, there's so much to choose from compared to here, their teams are so small. But so that was a privilege, and it's really supportive, and it was a real big thing to support me on, move me on a next level.
So you said you'd gone to Australia in your 40s. Had you done much in the way of competitive sport or sport at all beforehand?
Nothing. Absolutely. It's funny, it's one thing that I always really admire in kids today is that they're really encouraged much more to do sport, and girls especially, and I just did minimal sport as growing up or in school, and I think you do this gym classes which were a lot of nothing really. So so this was a big turning point for me to actually feel as if I'm an elite athlete.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there comes a point. This is 35 plus years ago. I was a marathon runner. So I still do a bit of running, but I was a competition marathon runner, and I kept getting shin splints. I was in the police at the time. Spent 30 years in the police. And I was on a London bus going over Richmond Bridge. I think I was coming back from a physio appointment actually. And I looked down, and there was some individual paddling a K1. and it was actually from one of the big teams at Richmond.
Yeah.
And I thought, which we could open. I think, well, and I thought I can do that, and that's exactly that. It's as simple as that. But that was interesting. I mean, for me, I was already into competitive sport, so I just took up kayaking in that case. Still do it to balance when I couldn't run, and then eventually it took over. But that whole idea that you're looking down from a bridge, same sort of situation, but you're going from a minimal level of sport to getting involved in it. And what was that? I'm interested in that little process. That sort of your mind must have been ripe to get involved in some new challenge.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I actually remember the process, because it took me a long time to actually go from, looking at it, on Google search, to making contact, to actually turning up. And that was quite a while, actually turning up. And I remember I don't think I actually spoke the first time I turned up. I was so terrified. And now you watch people step into the boat for the first time, and you kind of reminds you, it's like, oh yeah, the fear of stepping from land into the boat, but it's and I think this is always where you have to remember, when someone steps into the boat first, you go, that first 5-10 minutes, half hour, it's either going to be brilliant or horrible, depending if someone shouts at you, or if someone says, just put your paddle in, don't worry about it, just try and keep in time. And it's this, and it's one thing I always say to people, is always, it doesn't matter, you're not going to stop the boat. There's 19 of us in the boat, just do what you can, and I think that's always sort of stuck with me, and actually being able to kind of go, it's very, I find it very empowering, and it's one thing I really really want to. I love when women turn up to the team, like they mightn't be prams, but they just turn up and they go, God, I've never done this sport. I've never done a sport before. And they're kind of at a point where they're thinking, oh, there's nothing left. And then they come out of the boat. They come out of the boat exhilarated. You can see them. It's just like, wow, I did that. And that's so empowering.
Brilliant. I mean, it's my dad used to say, you only get one opportunity to make a first impression, and even though instinctively I sort of rail against it, it is actually true, isn't it? And that first experience, if you have a bad experience, it'll take a long time to recover from it. And that's what, when you think about it, that's what quality coaching, boat captaincy, that sort of stuff, being welcoming, and just letting people do their own thing. And I've been on boats before where new people come in, do this, do that, and surprisingly they don't come back again. That's strange.
I know.
I'm sure eventually they'll work out why that might be.
Yeah,
they don't actually want new people in the boat, and you're thinking, well, why are you advertising? But that's the way it is.
And I think that, Tim, it's interesting, and you do get all sorts of characters, don't you? And sometimes you go, really, really, why are you here? And I think that the thing that I always try and remind myself is that we all have our reasons, and some people, they just go, oh yeah, grand. But other people, there's a lot of people have, this is my thing, this is my thing, probably amongst a lot of issues in their life. This is my thing, and this is the one thing that keeps me sane. And I think we have to be always really respectful of that.
You picked up a really important point there. I mean, I wasn't going to talk to you about coaching, but you've just reminded me of something that really is important. I run coaching courses. Okay, lots of people run coaching courses. And people think you come on a coaching course, you learn how to do technical drills. Yes, you do. But really, the point of going on a coaching course is to learn how to facilitate those things you're talking about. And, as a coach, not just in dragon boating, I used to be a detective as well. So it's the same sort of thing. Once you open up a bit of trust and confidence and communication with somebody, then people will open up to you in all sorts of different ways. And it could be disclosing things that I've got absolutely nothing to do with dragon boating. And actually, when people do that, that is a privilege. And the unsuspecting person then says, "Oh, I can't deal with that," and closes the door. So a lot of the coaching courses are about saying, "Look, you know, you may not become a counsellor necessarily overnight, but you've got to understand that you're there to not just give somebody a good time, but people are there for different reasons, exactly what you're talking about. And some are obvious: get fit, build some muscle mass, lose some weight, and some are less obvious. And you've got to have the capacity to realise that. Now, you can't please everybody when you've got 20 people in the boat, but you think you're mindful of keeping as many people as happy most of the time, connecting with people. Yeah, you make mistakes, but try not to make the same mistake twice. And this sort of stuff, this is the nuts and bolts of coaching that is, and just being an official or a captain of a team anyway. That sort of stuff. You say that's really important. That idea that people are there for different reasons. They're not the most obvious reasons you'd imagine. Paddle a boat. Yes, that's just and I've coached some teams where ACS teams where the paddling the boat actually is a bit secondary. Yeah, it's a dragon boat team, but paddling the boat is actually secondary to getting people together, pushing their personal confidence, or I say pushing it, in terms of expanding it, that sort of thing. First step back into a bit of fitness, whatever, that sort of stuff. It really is. It's enlightening.
Yeah, and
the more enlightened you are.
You know, like you just, I know you deal with Deborah Bonner, but I think like Deborah is great for that.
No, I not deal with her. She's a lovely lady.
Yeah.
We work together. I'm not deal with her, but yeah. She'll laugh at that, but yeah.
But she's great, and in that getting people involved and knocking down the sort of the what supposed walls, and just actually getting on and doing it for the crack, as we say.
For the crack, absolutely. Deborah knows everybody. Programs like this and our other program, the Paddle of the World. Obviously, I contact various people and say, please find this, have a look at this. This might be of interest to your readers, your viewers, and pretty much everywhere I go in the world, Deborah Bonner is somewhere on there. She's like them. So she is truly. If I was chatting to a friend of hers and mine, Sean, she is a force of nature. That term is overused. But Deborah Bonner, when you say you are a force of nature, most definitely. Anyway. Right, let's take you back. So you've done your 4 years. You've represented New South Wales. You've had a great time in the sun, and then you find yourself back in Ireland.
Yes.
And then Dublin Vikings came about. But that's so tell us that story. That's an interesting story.
Yeah. So I came back, and actually, funnily, it was my dad mentioned it to me. He sent me a newspaper clipping from the Irish Times, he sent it to me in the post when I was in Sydney, and he said, "I think this is what you do." He said, they've sent one of these up in Dublin, and I was like, really? And so it turned out to be it was the Pluribels, and so I contacted the IDBA, and I think it must have been coming up to September for our Hong Kong International Regatta, and she came back and said, this regatta coming up, and she said, "I think we're going to need some extra paddlers." So it was I think it was around that time anyway, and I turned up, and I met with Laura Phelan, who's really is the driver, and Paul Claremont and Mick O'Sullivan, and we chatted, and we actually jumped in I think it was the Thames Dragons were over from the UK, and I think they just had half a team, so we said we'd jump in their boat. So I think that's kind of our first outing, was into someone else's boat. I'm not sure how much good we were, but we were enthusiastic. And then what happened was we kind of thought, well, we'll kind of just jump in, and then we realized that they needed more people than we had. So I rang my sister, and I said, would Killian, her son, be interested in coming down and jumping in a boat? And so, like, silence, you know. And she came back on, and she says, yeah. And would you be interested in me too? So, and the club evolved from there. But as an aside, we turned into a bit of a Dunne mafia, because my sister then got my niece involved, and then we got my brother-in-law involved, who then became a head coach, Barry, and then I got my lovely partner Connor involved. So it became a bit of a Dunne mafia for a while. But yeah, so that's we grew as a team from there. The usual, you know, dragging people in, and not knowing for the first couple of years, not knowing whether you'd, you know, get a boat out or not. And then you get into a point where it was like, yay, we need a second boat, you know, that kind of, you know. So, and getting the churn of people and trying to see, it's, you know, it's the usual thing, trying to see how can we settle it, how can we retain people, and you know, we'd get a load of people signing up on Meetup. I actually went on to Meetup last night because I had no idea what numbers we have at the moment, and Meetup says we've got 1,500.
Wow.
Like, I don't think so. I think so. We've about, you know, we've kind of roughly 40 to 60 people, you know, on, you know, as it goes. So yeah, so we're a fairly mixed crew. We're very proud that we've only got one Irish team as the Premier's team, and we've got some of our great Vikings on that team. Right. So we're proud of that. So yeah, so we've kind of done some traveling. We've been to the UK. Paul Coster, he's invited us over and been very kind to us. And Paul actually came over to us a couple of years ago and did a training weekend with us, which was great. And that kind of coaching really stayed with us. So yeah, we went to Venice, did the Vogalonga.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, that to me is the epitome of, you know, how wonderful Dragon Boat is. It's like, you know, going down the Grand Canal, seeing Venice from the water, you know, you just, how lucky am I, you know. So we've done that. Yeah, we've done that twice. And yeah, we're keen to obviously get back in the water. We're keen to keep, you know, I think we need to kind of move ourselves up, you know, that notch. We do a lot of the local kind of regattas, same regattas year on year. It's like, so we need to kind of get on out.
So how long has Dublin Vikings been going? I think I first heard of you in 2014, 15 maybe?
Yeah, so I probably got this wrong. I'd say we're eight years.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how long you've been back then?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Right. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. So that's because I think the Irish Federation or the association must have started 12, 13, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, because then the Pluribels, I think, were the first, and then
yes, because we did something in Spain in 2013 in Murcia, and Pluribels came out.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that, but did well actually, but yeah. Okay, because I was out there with Pink Champagne and a few others, but okay, brilliant. So
now we have I think we've about 15 Irish teams now.
Oh right, so,
okay. Yeah.
Okay, so it's growing. But so what's your in terms of Dublin Vikings? So you're obviously continued sustained growth and that sort of stuff. But what's your plans? I mean, accepting the restrictions. What would you do? What would have been your plans for this year if there weren't restrictions? So where are you now? This is what I'm saying, really.
Well, obviously our Premier ladies were busily training for everything that was obviously been cancelled.
Yes.
But as a team, I think I personally I'm really keen for us to do more overseas, because I think that's exposure, in Europe. It's not necessarily you don't have to do the worlds or anything, but some of this, smaller regattas in Europe is definitely a great idea of where you sit, where, and where you're progressing. And if you kind of paddle in, you're literally in your own pool, you never really know, and you don't really push yourself. But on a personal basis, I would love to. I'd love to set up an over 50s Irish sort of group team, not necessarily just for the Vikings. We wouldn't have enough numbers, but combined Irish teams, and that's kind of either women's or mixed. And I'd started like the feeler of that at the end of last year, and I got a really good reaction from people, and so that's a personal point of view. I'd love to do that, and because I think there's something really strong in paddlers who at that age, let's not necessarily have paddled for years, but there's something about the camaraderie and the reaction I got from a lot of women saying, "Oh, do you know what? I'd love to do that." And being in with my peers, in a team like that, So
I think you're right. Having been involved in different, not just national level stuff, the different age groups. There are age groups for a reason, not just competition and physiological reasons and that sort of stuff, and muscle memory and that sort of. But they are a very different feel to them. And there's a group in the UK called Britannia. It's a ladies' team.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it's a GB team. It's not a GB team. Well, it isn't. In that the people who get involved in it tend to be more interested or committed paddlers, and they same sort of thing you're talking about. They travel around. They went to Cyprus last year to different competitions. A lot of them have represented GB at different levels, be it senior A, senior B, but some haven't.
Yeah.
And they paddle with their own teams, and then they come together. They do. I don't know. In the summer, they might do a training. I don't know. A training session a month or something, whatever they do. But then they plan to do, like they went to, Cyprus last October, but they had a weekend away in Cyprus and did a competition. So it's the same sort of. It's that sounds like the sort of thing you're talking about. You've got people paddle with. In your case, paddle with Dublin Vikings. Really important that you do that, and stay with that. But then you also have another paddling group, another group of paddling friends. They come from different clubs, and in fact, one of the benefits of doing that is you go to regattas and you end up with a bigger whatever collective noun for friends, group of friends, cohort, whatever. That's the sort of thing that and then it goes where it goes. But it's and very often, especially with UK teams, for example, then if I don't know, Thames, just pick on Thames for. They want to go do the Vogelonga. They end up, maybe they can't close a team, so they end up doing the same sort of thing and pulling other people in from other teams as well. Anyway, so it becomes that sort of conglomerate. But I didn't realise there wasn't a that sort of formation. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's so that's where your passion takes you. Some form of senior B age group, or you call them grandmasters, I think. So over 50s.
Yeah.
Is that a ladies' team or a mixed team or
either? I actually put out, I put the feelers out to the community, and the majority of people were women. But I don't think I was going to just see how it fell, and actually people, I think it was one of the last regattas I came to one to, and it was like some women came up and said, I just love you to do that. I'd love you to push this forward. Still really keen, and actually it'd be interesting to have a chat with you, because you could help just even give us some steers, like even knowing about another team in the UK, that kind of, okay, what do they do? Where do they start? What do they, and what was their first couple of steps?
I've got to say, in the last few months, having got involved, and it's been a pleasure, got involved in some of the online training and that sort of stuff. And I've done a training weekend in Athy in March. I was going to do another one, but obviously the restrictions came in. And what did strike me about the Irish paddlers, they just seemed to be very chatty, paddy, and you couldn't tell where one team started and one finished. And I think that's I'm not suggesting that British paddling is more standoffish, but I think if you got often, not always, not often, I don't want to overstate this, people tend to sort of congregate with their own groups. They combine together. But one thing that struck me about Irish paddling was it was more, there was, I don't know, maybe 6 clubs represented, and it seemed like a more homogenous group from the get-go. As a coach, I had to do very little getting people working together and that sort of stuff. So that struck me. Even on the sessions we've been doing, it strikes me as a really good place to do that sort of stuff. And I think that would be I'm sure that would be a success, because you've got the raw material, the people want to work together, work hard together, listen, help, contribute. Fantastic. Yeah. I'll be more than happy to help you out. No problem at all. Yeah.
We're kind of we're a country of I'm killed for this. It's kind of the underdogs, in rugby, football, whatever. So we're relative. Dragon Boat's still very new here. So we're kind of always keen for any opportunity, and absolutely, like, I think when we started going to our own regattas here in Ireland, with the IDBA organised, initially we'd turn up as our little team and, literally just politely say hello, to other teams. And then, but now, we know each other. And we've, oh, you're missing someone, we'll throw one of our guys into your team, or, it's just, and that's what it's about, isn't it?
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, people say, and I've mentioned this a few times, you're all in the same boat. And I'll say it again because it's worth saying. The blessing of dragon boating, and the viewers will permit me this. The blessing of dragon boating is you're all in the same boat and you're all working hard in each other's intimate, if not personal, space.
Exactly.
And at the moment, right now, the curse of dragon boating is you're all in the same boat and you're working in each other's intimate, if not personal, space. So that's keeping us apart at the moment. But I think it's to the credit of Irish paddling and what I've seen of Irish paddling, what little I've seen of Irish paddling, that you're still very close together. And the fact that you can't get in dragon boats, okay, well that's an occupational hazard, if you like, but you're still together as groups. And like I say, I've done sessions in sessions in Donegal, and people come from different clubs, and I've done sessions in Dublin, and people come from different clubs. In fact, we're carrying on the Thursday sessions, and I think it's more of a all Ireland. Anybody's welcome anyway, and that's just a natural thing. Whereas I think other places I've coached in, you can do that, but you have to work a little bit harder at it. Whereas it's just a more natural thing, and I think honestly, I think it's something about the Irish national character. Something about it is just welcoming, friendly. And even when I was over there a few years ago with my son, we did the the Dublin Festival. And travelling at night on the Luas, right? Some bloke was telling me, I was ex-police officer. Some bloke was telling me, oh, there's always sorts of problems. And I was saying to him, no, it's rubbish, mate. Look at the condition of these trains. There's not graffiti all over them. And we're quite happy travelling. And people even people have been out on a Saturday night and they're worse for wear. I had a couple of Guinnesses. In the main, people were very friendly, very similar to Liverpool in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
Very similar sort of feel to that sort of, people might be sort of whatever, but it struck me as a very pleasant place to be. Yeah.
Good. I'm like,
it's only an hour from here, so that's great. So,
exactly.
But there you go. So apart from that, that's huge opportunities. So where do you think? Last couple of questions. Where do you think you're going to be in a few years' time regarding your dragon boating? So if I had my gross paddling happiness magic wand and I wave my magic wand, where would you like to be paddling wise? Yeah.
Me? Oh,
you and then yeah.
Yes. Well, I would definitely love to. Well, for the team, I'd love to see us, step on to the next level and keep growing, and step out of the kind of.
Did you say? Hang on a minute. Did you say keep growing or keep rowing?
Growing.
Growing. Keep growing. What? Okay,
oh no!
Sorry, I interrupted you. Okay.
And I think definitely, stepping out of the kind of Irish, our Irish little pond, our Dublin pond.
Yeah.
For me, I'd love to see a couple of seasons of working with and paddling with some Prem B teams, and just seeing where that goes, because I think I'm a little jaded where I'm at, and so it's like, next adventure.
You need to keep. I mean, especially if you're like you're innovating. You need to keep moving on. But you do something and that works and that doesn't work. But I think that's important, that if you're an innovator, then you keep innovating. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What tends to happen is whatever you do, you don't end up sort of resting on your laurels, and then it becomes a little bit, as you say, it gets a bit jaded. It doesn't mean you're going to give anything up. It just means you want to push it on a little bit. And we've done this with other teams where we were the top dogs. I used to paddle with Amethyst, which is a big team in Liverpool, and in 2013 we were the national champions for a number of years, top dogs in the UK. Went to the European Club Championships in Hamburg, and absolutely got our rear ends kicked into next week. And it was one of the best trips we'd done, because when you see some of these big German teams, I remember seeing a bloke, and he was a reserve, and I laugh about it even to my son now. He's 21 now. This bloke's his bicep was bigger than my leg, and he was the reserve, and he could paddle as well. He wasn't just a meeting; he could paddle as well. And you're thinking, this is there's another dimension, and even beyond Germany, then there's another dimension, and you can always keep on pushing on. And it's so important to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Because you say about paddling around your pool, that pool could be the UK, it could be Australia. There's always a bigger pool. There's always bigger fish, bigger boats, bigger teams to compete against, and that's the nature of there's a part of the human condition, isn't it? Being competitive, not always.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I remember thinking it was the same thing. We'd paddle around Sydney Harbour, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm just so bored and looking at that bridge, Sydney Harbour Bridge. And I thought, oh dear, Maeve.
Oh, that boring old opera house. Yeah. Absolutely, but that's true of anything, isn't it? You do. Then you only sort of reflect upon that when you miss it.
Yeah.
I remember doing it. I was working in the Middle East. This is just after the Iraq War. I was training the police, and I remember coming back for the school holidays to see my son, basically. And I remember paddling my kayak down the Thames, and I just lost concentration. I capsized, and it was in the summer, and I just floated down the Thames. And people must have thought I was crazy. I was just enjoying, very slowly, just floating down the Thames, enjoying the Thames for the Thames. Literally, total immersion. Literally, but yeah. Okay, that's fantastic. Last question, Maeve. Last question for you. What makes you happy? This is a happiness project. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Being out in the water really makes me happy, and being around family, friends, and family and friends, and keeping up my sport, and keep meeting new people.
And last question, tell me about that lovely picture behind you.
Oh, that's it's a piece of Japanese work. It's actually wallpaper. It's this piece of wallpaper design, but it's some original on graph paper.
Yes.
I picked it actually up on a market stall in London last time I was over there.
Right, okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, Maeve Dunne, you've been a star of the highest order of magnitude. Let me stop the recording there, but hang on there, we'll have a chat again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really pleased. I'm honoured actually to talk to Mr. Mark O'Connor. Mark O'Connor is in Cork, in the south of Ireland, and he is a member of Cork Dragons. I think you're a founding member of Cork Dragons. And he's
One of the
also
founding members.
a male BCS paddler, and that is really unusual. Unusual for two reasons. Firstly, fortunately, in some ways, there's very few, or increasing, but few male BCS paddlers. But it's very difficult to get male BCS or male ACS people to join teams. So I'm hoping you can shed some light on that and help us out. But welcome very much, Mark. Tell us about what's going on down there.
Well, at the moment, there's very little going on with this COVID-19, obviously, and you know, we're still trying to find ways around how we're going to get back in the boat and so on. But look, we'll just have to wait for directives off the government for that, you know, for the social distancing and I mean, we'd have no bother cleaning the boats and all of that stuff. And it's just waiting on the guidance from the government, basically, and you know, and plus the fact that when people have had an underlying issue, obviously breast cancer, a lot of people at the moment will probably be afraid until they actually get the proper direction from people before they'd actually start paddling again. That's my opinion.
Think you're right, actually, because I think the US have published some, they call him re-entry guidance, because it's by Bob McNamara, who's a clinician anyway. He's the US DBF premier coach, but he's also a senior man in Philadelphia Health and dealing with COVID-19. And they all recognise that anybody who's immunosuppressed, BCS, ACS, or other conditions is, you know, the social distancing is one thing, but then there's another raft of health considerations that you've got to think about. But we'll come on to that in a minute. But tell us about the establishment of Cork Dragons. But can I ask you a favour? Just under your right arm, there's a little bit of a shine at a light. Could you just angle it? No, other way. Go the other way. You got it. Really, yes. I just posted. So tell us about the establishment of Cork Dragons. That's beautiful.
Well, we established Cork Dragons in 2012. I attended our course for counselling as part of my after my treatment. You know, the aftercare after treatment. Yeah. After I had my mastectomy, 7 months of chemo, 25 sessions of radiotherapy.
Wow.
And then I went for some counselling, you know, because your head is everywhere.
Yeah.
So my counsellor suggested to me that they were having an open day for, you know, when we had conversations about my life prior to getting sick and whatever, she asked me what did I like, and I said I love anything to do with water.
Right.
So then in the course of, we said the following few weeks, she said, would I like to try out, they were having an open day for dragon boating. Prior to that, I never even heard about dragon boating. Yeah. They told me it was an ancient Chinese art, and you know, that you could have 20 people on a boat and a drummer and someone at the back steering at a helm. And we like myself, my wife, my son, and my mother-in-law went in. It was actually, they made a big thing out of it, actually. You know, there was a lot of people from different areas who had been through counselling and stuff as well, and they were all invited as well. It was done actually really well. It was like Mehel Namara are a community-based. They have boats and stuff, you know, they've old boats, old dragon boats, old heavy ones. So they were perfect for it, for us. And you had the HSC, you had Shirley O'Shea from the HSC. She was the person that actually done it as well. And you had Darren Prince and Oisin Cray, who's a legend with the Cork Dragons. He's a really, really nice man. He's so giving of his time.
I'm going to come on to talk about him, because I looked him up, and he's quite an intrepid bloke, actually.
He's such a nice man, and like there's nothing as a bother for him. He went out of his way to teach us all about boats and tides and winds, and you know, the man is a legend when it comes to it. And you know, there's another couple I could probably mention, but half the time it just goes out of your head, but you can't think of everybody because it's been a while back now as well. But they're generally the people that, Darren Prince was there as well. He was he's actually a lymphedema specialist.
Right.
So he actually he himself, Shirley O'Shea, Mehel Mara, and Oisin Gray, and Ross Joseph Kenny, they all introduced us to it, let's say, in 2012 on the Open Day.
Right.
Subsequently, we went for another couple of battles towards the end of that year, and then we had a couple of meetings where a lot of the survivors that were at the Open Day, we decided to exchange numbers and whatnot. So then we created a couple of meetings in late 2012.
Right.
And we formed the Cork Dragons in late 2012, early 2013.
Well, I mean, what's noticeable, having talked to different BCS and ACS crews literally around the world now, it's quite a privilege what I do. And it makes a big difference when you have some top cover from Strategic Health who are recommending it. I know some clubs that, because they don't have that link into somebody senior or well established in recommending dragon boating as a sort of a, not too much a therapy, but an aftercare sort of situation. And they've had leaflets taken out of various weight rooms, that sort of thing. But if you've got somebody who's really sufficiently senior who's recommending it, then it really works really well. And it sounds like you've really got a good setup down there.
Yeah, well, initially when it was actually set up, we found out subsequently that Fiona, my counsellor, and I think Shirley O'Shea, they actually went up to Dublin to the Plurabelle Paddlers.
Yes, right.
Because they've heard about Dr. Don McKenzie in Canada and why he set it up about helping people for the manoeuvrability, and so they went up and they had a chat and they said, look, I think that's where the idea stemmed for them to have the Open Day. They knew that instead of wrapping us up in cotton wool, just release us back into the fold a small bit and do it in a way that they thought was, well, it's proven that it's good for us.
I did a talk in Cyprus a few years ago, and I spoke to, Don McKenzie wasn't there, but I spoke to him in preparation. And it was interesting because he was basically saying that he did his research. He was a flat water kayaker, and that was a competition kayaker. That's where he got the idea from. He did it as a research project, and he thought at the end of it will fold up and stop. Of course, now he's like he's a guru, and he gets invited all the time. And I think in Florence there was something like 220 BCS crews or clubs. It's absolutely huge now. Quite rightly so. Quite rightly so. I mean, what he started there was, but interestingly, he said to me, of all the successes of breast cancer paddling, for me, one of the biggest things was certainly the fact that so many people have benefited from it, but also a number of other doctors and clinicians have been inspired by this. And imagine how many people they will also influence and help during their career.
Absolutely. I mean, I met the man in Florence. I met the man in Sarasota in 2014.
Yeah.
And I met him in 2018 in Florence. Myself, Deborah Bonner, and Lisa Power put a team together from all over Ireland. We created a team. We created, I would just say, training sessions and everything. I was the coach, among other things, booking hotels. And, so we had people from Donegal. We had people from Cork, we had people from Limerick, and Tipperary. They actually loved it. We brought them to, we had about 7 or 8 training sessions.
Yeah.
So it like people say why they love dragon boating and whatever. I love what it actually does for people, and I love doing it in a way that people get the most benefit out of it, especially mentally, because after being sick, there's a lot of stuff floating around in your head, and it takes a long time for it to leave, basically. But if you're in, I know it sounds like a pun, but we're all in the same boat together.
Absolutely.
We've all had breast cancer, but it's just amazing the camaraderie that you build up, and the friendships, and and the people that you meet from all over the world that we'd never met. The best thing that ever happened, the best thing to come out of the cancer was the dragon boating and the amount of people that we've met from it. And it's actually, as you say, it's healthy. It's good for us socially, mentally, physically. The benefits are just unbelievable from dragon boating. And
I read something on your website, and I'll quote from your website because it really sums it up. It says camaraderie, fresh air, positive endorphins, it says, and the feeling of well-being involved in a new venture. And really, if you was going to sum it up in a phrase, That's about it. But that whole idea of all being in the same boat, and whatever life's problems, issues, daily challenges, you literally leave them at the gate or the boathouse gate, get in a boat, have a good time, and come back. And sometimes your problems or whatever they might be is somewhat diminished. The fact you haven't bothered with them for an hour or so or whatever. Brilliant.
Absolutely. My take on it was that when we got on the water, it was like our own counselling session. But the only difference was you had 20 counsellors on the board because we were all counselling each other. It was like a floating counselling session. But, you know, if you had a problem with, you know, if from your previous injury,
yes,
you could talk to someone about, say, look, how did you go through it, or what medication did you have to take? And, you know, and once people start to loosen out and then they start to talk to each other, it actually turned into a really good way of helping each other.
Yeah.
You know?
It's brilliant. I mean, I'm when they start restricting or releasing restrictions, because I've been dealing and working with a number of people in Ireland. I'm actually going to do a tour of Ireland. I'm going to drive my Land Rover over there. I'm going to come and see you, and I'm going to come and have a paddle with you because it's just great. I mean, I think it suits the very jovial, sociable Irish way. I think dragon boating is so. It doesn't surprise me. I think you've been going. I was talking to Julie Doyle earlier, actually. I think you've been going 10 years. This might be your 10th year, as in the association, and they're doing really well. You know, there's 15 plus teams.
Oh, there's a lot of teams in Ireland at the moment, and people, not just breast cancer teams.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other teams and some really good teams as well. Just one more thing I forgot to mention a while ago as well, Tim. Our first captain was Captain Tara Sheridan, and the woman was just like, she's passed now since a couple of years ago, but the woman was unbelievable driving first mate in the Cork Dragons.
Yeah.
She was like, she could get you to do something even if you didn't want to do it, because she'd make you do it in such a way that you know it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
For the greater good.
Yes.
She was just an amazing person, and you know, I couldn't give an interview without actually mentioning her name, because that's how much she meant to me, and that's how much she meant to the Cork Dragons. Because she was a legend in our eyes, because she was just so driven and such a lovely, lovely person. So it wouldn't be great for me to do an interview without actually speaking about her.
Well, thank you for doing that. But,
yeah.
So you mentioned you do a bit of coaching down there. So what role do you perform in Cork Dragons then, apart from being a?
Well, I don't coach anymore now, because we've had another coach, and we've had another coach for, we said, the last kind of 2 years. She's a brilliant girl. She is actually an Olympic rower.
Oh wow!
Claire Lamb. She's a brilliant person, and she's really tuned in. And you know, when I was coaching people, I done a coaching course with Julie, and prior to that, we got some information from the Plurable Paddlers, because we went up and had a couple of paddling sessions with them at the start, because at the start we hadn't a clue what we were doing. We were all over the place and splashing each other, but then they taught us how to, you know, hold the paddle right and how to position your body, lock your body in, and small little things like that. So every time we learned something in Dublin, we brought it back with us and we taught the people in Cork. So I was just kind of the coach for, well, since day one really, but Claire is a coach on a different level. I mean, the girl is just amazing. I mean, a bit like yourself, I'd say she, in fairness, she gives a training session every week online as well. You know, I've yet to do one because I just couldn't find the time at the moment, even though it sounds kind of silly, but even in lockdown, I still couldn't find the time because it's just, the time is wrong for me. But she's an amazing girl, and she's a very good coach. Really good and really tuned in.
And if she
really understands.
If she's Olympic rower, then she'll understand all the body mechanics and getting the best out of it.
And even in the winter, in fairness, like all through the winter now when we're off the water, she got us use of a rowing club, so we get to use the rowing machines, and we'll do rowing machines for whatever, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then we go upstairs to the gym and do circuits for cardio and stuff, and she gets all the right muscles exercised. So she's really, in fairness, she's taught us a lot how to manage a race, let's say.
Yes,
You know, when you're in a race and you know you've raced enough as well. how to not over exuberate yourself too early, and
Manage
just
it,
keep a little bit. And it's a perfect management. And she put a plan in place a couple of times. And even before we went to Florence, I had a chat with her, and she advised me on doing certain things, and absolutely it worked.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised just by, it's a different perspective. Like, I thought rowing would be totally different, but it's still a water sport.
Oh yeah, I know I know they're facing a different direction, but the mechanics of it is exactly the same. I think rowers would say something like 46%. I don't know how they work it out. 46% of your body power is from your legs.
From your legs, correct?
You see what I mean? So, and if you're not using your legs in a dragon boat, well, you're actually giving away a huge amount of your power. This sort of stuff, I think, makes a lot of sense. The way you apply the power is slightly different, but you still have a body, and the body prefers to work in a certain way. And it's a case of taking whatever power you're bringing and applying it to the water. And that sounds easy to say that, but actually the mechanics of doing that is a different. That's proper. That sounds to me like proper coaching, no doubt about it.
Oh, the girl's amazing. Couldn't say enough about it. In fairness, no, like so.
But you mentioned your love of the water. But prior to getting diagnosed and getting introduced to dragon boating, had you done any other form of water sports beforehand?
No, just swimming and stuff. I just love swimming and stuff like that. I love kind of swimming in the sea and in the rivers back here. And pools are okay as well, but I prefer outdoor swimming. Prefer the sea. It feels more natural or something.
Yeah,
I think you feel restricted in the pool, I think, and then the water. It's just not the greatest. Even though I do like going swimming, so if a pool is the only thing open in the winter, you're going to use the pool. Right. But prior to that as well, I played soccer and stuff for years as well. Yeah. So I was always kind of fit kind of a fella, if that makes sense.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the HSE as in the health service executive, but I gather you've also mentioned to me in a previous conversation, the Ark House project or Ark House?
Ark House are, they're like a form of an aftercare after you're having cancer,
Right.
It's a cancer. They actually have, they have two buildings now. They have one in West Cork and they have one in Cork City as well. And, they counsel people and they also give people massages and treatments and, all stuff. And they do classes there as well, for people that are not long after treatment. And
really,
they're an amazing charity. They're brilliant.
Do you know, I'm sure these things, the same sort of situation must exist in the UK, but I've never actually. It sounds straightforward, doesn't it? I'm sure they do exist, but I've never actually heard of those in the UK. That's why I was interested in talking about that, and it must be, but it's I don't know. I mean, probably Macmillan in the UK mainly cover that, but I've never heard of a standalone sort of aftercare service that does that sort of stuff. I'm sure it happens, but I was just interested in how they link in. So that's open to anybody who's been diagnosed or in treatment can go in there, get advice, guidance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like my oncologist, Seamus O'Reilly, he's actually a patron of Ark House. Right. So he knows how good it is for people to go and get treatments and go and talk to people and and find out more and more and more what they need to find out about.
Right. Yeah. So I need to educate myself a bit more about what the aftercare facilities are. That's it really. So, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of people have issues, especially women, like after losing their hair and stuff, and and like I lost my toenails, I lost my fingernails, and you'll be surprised. It's like it's horrible at times, but when you can go and talk to someone and you can get treatments done, it actually makes you feel more human again.
Yes,
it brings back that perspective to you that like, hey, all right, you're going through a bad time right now, but it's not always going to be bad.
Yes, yeah.
There's light at the end of the tunnel, and our light at the end of the tunnel was speaking to people, and then dragon boating came after that, and I was just blown away by it. Amazed.
What's quite interesting is, I mean, having spoken to BCS and ACS survivors teams, there's a big team called Wellness Warriors in Boston, Massachusetts, and they've been going 12 years, 13 years. Big team, and when I spoke to them, I'd imagine that they've got a mixed team and this, that, and the other. They faced all the usual problems about trying to get men to join. And when I spoke to them, they said, "Well, we've got a very small number of men." Now, why do you think it is as a man, why do you think it is that men are less inclined to come forward and join any group? I mean, for example, in the UK, prostate cancer, Movember, people are familiar with that from a donation point of view, but there's very few groups that I can think of. So what is it? Why do you, if you was trying to recruit or get more men to come forward, what do you think are the keys to that? Because this is a perennial issue for a lot of people. What do you reckon?
Well, I think one of the keys to getting more men to come forward is to hold an open day.
Yeah.
Get people to see what it's about, and I think once you get them involved and you get them in the board, and if you get to chat to them, I think that opens the door a bit as well. But referring back to what you said there about men being like, I don't know, is it a macho thing with some men, or is it some men feel like that because they have an ailment or whatever, that they don't feel like a full man, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
That's only pie in the sky. Look, I always say doctors are there for a reason, and if you have a problem, if in doubt, check it out.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, like, some men just need to be talked to by other men, if that makes sense. So I think if they see another man doing something that's out of the ordinary, per se, I mean, I'm the only man in our boat, per se, at the moment that's competitive. We have another chap, Dunne, he's a lovely man as well. But, like, sometimes you need men to talk to men, to just give them that little nudge in the right direction and get them to feel comfortable as well. I think that's very important as well. A lot of men mightn't feel comfortable around a lot of women, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, certainly. In fact, I mean, as a friend of mine, Lane Hammerson, I'll give him a quick shout out. He's in Bournemouth, Dorset. So where Pink Champagne and Bournemouth Dragons are, an ACS and a BCS team. And he's been involved in both of those over the years. And he runs a group called Men Talk. And it's not just cancer survivors. It's men that have either fallen on hard times, done this, whatever, some are cancer survivors, and just getting blokes together to do blokey things. But the point is, that's the medium. And once they're together doing stuff, then they do other stuff. And dragon boating is one of the things they'll be doing amongst others. They might do some camping on the beach. It doesn't really matter what they do. It's just creating the situation where men can come together. And it's fantastic, but once again, it's not something it's not mainstream. It should be, but it's few and far between. I think we're missing a trick here, because there's the amount of good you can do. Just by
the amount of good you could do is unbelievable, Tim. I mean, but I think they just need sometimes, especially if they're going through treatment, if it's if different types of cancer, whatever, they should be kind of pointed in the slide where they say, look, why don't you have a look at that? Try it out, go talk to somebody. I mean, I'd talk to anybody if they needed help. Honestly, I would, because I've been through it, and it's not really nice to go through it, but at the end of the day, if we could help one person along the line with your experiences, that's job done. Yeah.
I think having coached a few BCS teams, I mean, mainly women. Like I say, up until yourself, I've only known one other BCS male paddler. So that's how small it is. But I think one of the successes of certainly the female BCS or the BCS teams is because the majority, not always, but in the main, the majority of women are more inclined to get together and chat about stuff, not necessarily conditions. And because of that communication line is open, then it leads on. Whereas maybe, I don't know whether it's part of the male condition, I don't know, where they're more inclined to suffer in silence. I don't know.
I agree with you. And definitely I think it's more predominant as well in slightly older men as well, as because like, if you have a problem, you keep it yourself, kind of a thing. And it's like, you don't show your hand to anybody, and you don't go to the doctor when you're sick. But you know what? That doesn't really work, because at the end of the day, all you're doing is punishing yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Suffering in silence when there's no need to.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now I mean, I knew, when we first spoke, then we talked about having you on our like a sister program called Paddle the World. But I think talking to you for a longer period is the message you're putting out here is far more important than trying to confine it into 20 minutes, which is great. You talked about Oisin Cray.
Yeah, Oisin Cray. Yeah.
Oisin Cray. Excuse me. Apologies for my my poor pronunciation. But I looked him up on the internet. Is he a paraglider?
He actually he done something for charity about 2 years ago. He flew to Africa and
right, yeah. So quite an intrepid. So tell me about him because he sounds like a fascinating bloke.
Yeah, Oisin's a lovely bloke. Oisin's an architect by trade, and he's he owns his own boat and stuff. But he's just the man is an amazing person because he makes everything, even things that are really, really difficult, he makes them so easy. Yeah. Makes it so easy for you to embrace it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like he trained most of us how to become helms.
Right.
No, he did. I've done 5 Ocean to Cities, and Oisin Cray has, I think he's helmed four of the boats that I've been on, and it's like he's a bus driver. When you're out in the middle of the sea and the boat is going up and down like this, and he's telling you stories, and he said, "Look over there, oh, that's such and such a place," and he's like a tour guide. The man is just amazing. He makes us feel so comfortable in the boat that sometimes you actually forget that you're in the boat. And then, especially for newer people, that takes away the fear. You know, the way people are, they're kind of nervous. Like I remember going in the boat the first time myself. I was kind of nervous, even though I'm not nervous to water, but you're still nervous. Yeah. But when Oisin comes along, he just makes everybody just feel, whoa, so chill. Well, he's a genius with boats, and he's a genius with people, and he's just a really, really nice guy. And then you'd love to meet him. He's a really nice guy. He's genuine, and he's so giving of his time to all different communities. So.
Right. So it sounds like he gets a special mention on your website. I think I'll just look him up. Of course, then all this stuff about flying to Africa, I think, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty intrepid as well. So yeah. Okay.
The man's a legend.
You mentioned the Ocean to City, which is a Rasmore, an event I actually want to do. So tell us about that. That finishes or starts at.
It starts at Crosshaven.
Crosshaven, right? Yeah.
And there's 2 courses. There's one called the City course, and there's one called the Ocean course. One is about 28 kilometres, and the other is about 22 kilometres.
Right.
So it's a fair trek, but the Ocean to City is combined of all different classes of boats.
Right.
You can have rowers, paddlers, stand-up boards, currachs, long boats. It's an amazing event. Like every year, you have over 200 different entries into it.
Right.
And then as the race begins, they stagger it. They keep the faster boats back to last.
Yeah.
So normally dragon boats are kind of nearly last to go. Because, when you have so many people in them. We normally only have 14 to 16 paddlers for the Ocean City, because you couldn't have 20 people in the boat because it would be too dangerous, with the sea going up and down and whatever. But it's an amazing event run by Mahel Mara as well. That's one of their major fundraisers as well,
Right.
But you get people coming from all over the world for this event. New Zealand, Germany. You pick a country, you can name it, and they'll be there for it. It's huge. It must be going about 12 or 13 years now. It's going a long time, and it just seems to go from strength to strength every year. And it's brilliant. It's a brilliant achievement when you do it. And especially, there was a lot of people now done it with us last year, and it was their first one. And you see the exuberation on their faces when they come off the boat. You're practically getting lifted out of the boat anyway, because your arse is sore, your hip is sore, your arms are hanging off. But it's an amazing. You just feel so good after it. or you'll be buzzing for weeks after.
So when does it, I appreciate this year is different, but when is it normally run? It's about this time of year, isn't it, normally?
Yeah, it's normally running either the first weekend in June or the second weekend in June, depending on the tide.
Yes, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not, and it's, as I said, I've done 5 of them, and they're amazing. I love it.
Bearing in mind that technically speaking, then dragon boats are sort of placid water boats. So if you've got somebody, it must be it's a feat of helming actually, if you've got sort of tidal water. I know obviously you can operate on the side, but that's something in its own. And even in the Great River Race, which is, I suppose, broadly similar but different, because even the Great River Race in London is confined on the River Thames, so it can be choppy, but it's not estuary conditions. So I think you'd have more taxing conditions there. But yeah, that sounds like a great race.
Yeah, and plus the fact you're going out into Cork Harbour as well, so you're actually out in open sea as well.
Yeah,
and it's you know, we've done it last year in our own racing boats, but prior to that, we used to always do them in the boats that Mahel Mara gave us, the wooden boats, because they would be heavier and you know they'd be more robust in the water.
Yeah.
But if you have a good helm like O'Sheen, which obviously he has to be a good helm like O'Sheen, and Robbie was another helm as well. He's a very nice man as well and does a lot of work for the Cork Dragons. They bought helm for us last year in R2 racing boat, so that's a feat on its own.
Yeah,
to get us home safely, you know.
So how big? I mean, I appreciate with the restrictions this year, but how big is the team now? How big is Cork Dragons?
Overall, I'd say we've about 60 members.
Wow.
But, you know, people come and go. Obviously, I mean, like some nights if we got enough people, we'd have to bring out 2 or 3 boats.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Pretty good.
We have our own safety boat as well, and we've people trained up on the safety boat how to drive it and stuff like that. So, you know, and now in the last kind of year or two, we've got a lot of people trained up in helming and stuff as well. Like, so I race helm as well, and I helm the boat as well. So I do work for Mahel Mara as well on when they hold their regattas, you know, their fundraisers.
Right.
I normally take out companies and they race against each other. And
yeah.
So
how are you, given the complications of BCS paddlers, immunosuppressed people, how are you managing your return to the water? I appreciate it may be some time, but how are you sort of thinking about getting back on the water as and when eventually?
Well, I would, for me personally, I will go back tomorrow, but
yeah,
I think our chairperson at the moment is in talks with people to find out how and when we're going to be allowed to return to it. I mean, if we're going to have to enforce the social distancing, it would be crazy. You'd instead of having 20 people on the boat, you'd probably have 4 people on the boat.
Yes, yeah, actually.
And that would not work. It just couldn't possibly work.
I mean, it's probably fair to say, and there's lots of opinions about this, but there's, if you even went for the 2 metre distancing, that's really 2 metres in still air, me talking to you at a bus stop. Once you start introducing the speed of the boat, the wind, the weather, there's a certain degree of risk management. And I think there'll come a point where people say, well, we need to understand what the risk is. And then you go and you decide to go and paddle with make an intelligent risk assessment yourself. You you have all the information and you make a decision based on that. Otherwise, people will never get back into dragon boating.
Absolutely.
Because, it's interesting. It's an interesting challenge all round, and there's different people doing different things. I mean, I've been told, I haven't spoken to them yet. I know they're paddling back in Holland, 5 or 6 people in the boat. I've been told, I don't know this is definite, I've been told in Hungary, some teams are back in the boat, 20 people in the boat, and away they go. I mean, okay, fine. So everyone's taking on different information and responding to it in a different way. And what suits an area, like in my area, in Middle England, I think there's been 1 COVID-19 death in the last few months. So it's sparse here, but central London is different. Yeah. So there's that stuff as well. So it's really, and there's lots of right and wrong answers, and you've got to work out what's particularly going to work for you. But do you do any single boat paddling down there?
No. Well, some of the girls have kayaks and stuff like that. Right. I don't have a kayak, so they go out. But we've only been recently recently left go back out to do things anyway.
Yes.
In the last week or two, so all along we couldn't have done anything anyway, even if we wanted to, you know. But I think I actually watched some of the interview that you had with Mary Gibson, and I think what they prescribed is actually the right way to go forward. That because they're all in the boat together, they have everybody's contact details, and then if they take a picture of the boat before the boat leaves, you know exactly who's sitting next to who and so on. And I think small little things like that, if they get out there, like the way we're having an interview now, and that'll go online in time. If people pick up on things like that, it will make it easier for us all to get back to doing the stuff that we love.
Well, I was running a little, in fact, I'm going to start it up again. It was called Future Water, and it was like a discussion program to say, you know, the fact that in River Dragons in Holland, they're paddling already. But I was interested in their rationale and how they arrived at that decision. It wasn't criticising that at all, and what they considered. Yeah. And then Mary, the idea of the community bubble. And in fact, my brother-in-law she's in just south of Christchurch, and there's Geraldine, which is 40 miles south of that. And then, you know, the 5 families around my brother-in-law are probably, that's 5 farms. So the social distancing already exists, and these community bubbles. And it's, like I say, something that I hadn't heard of mentioned in the UK, and yet we're thinking, actually, that can work there. So what I'm doing with my people is I'm actually training now back in C2s, but with only, like with my son, with a small number of people who do a certain amount of health monitoring, and that works for us. I'm not saying that works for you, but if you know what we're doing and why we're doing that, you would look at that and say, well, that doesn't work for me at all, but actually that bit might work. So sharing ideas.
Absolutely. I think like the sharing of information is everything, because, as you say, the whole program of it mightn't work for you, but parts of the program might work for you.
Yeah.
So and then, you know, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. You know, we all have a little piece, and we all find, and eventually it'll come back to the way it's supposed to be. But for now, we'll just have to, you know, grin and bear it and go with what we're being told to do. And, you know, it seems to be working anyway. Once people do what they're supposed to do, it'll work in the end, you know. Yeah. While they're waiting on a vaccine, so.
And that's and then people have just got to bide their time and keep together, keep the community going, and then there is light at the end of the tunnel. Exactly what you say. So it's just a case of saying, well, it's going to take a bit of time, but you're moving towards it gradually, step by step, as you go along. Fine. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
It's a
challenge. We can't lay down to it either.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but you're a man for a challenge, so it's just one more challenge, isn't it? Really, I suppose.
Just keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what people need to hear, isn't it? Really, because the other option is to sort of hide in your house and don't go out and don't do this and don't do that. Well, yes, okay, there's a time and a place for that, but there's also a time and a place for manage the risk. Understand what the risk is, and then move forward without being stupid about it, being intelligent, informing yourself, and then evaluating it as you go along. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's life,
and like self-evaluation is imperative as well at the moment, and for people, because some people are like sheep. They just walk around in circles, but other people can say, hang on a second, that's not the right thing to do, so let's not do it.
Yeah.
And when it becomes the right thing to do, let's do it. Yeah. You have to make your own judgments on things as well, I believe.
Yeah. So, just to round off, now recruiting for Cork Dragons. Let's do a little recruiting piece. So there's an opportunity to sell Cork Dragons. I appreciate it's a challenge at the moment, but we're going to be back on the water soon. So tell us about why we should be paddling with you. I'm convinced I want to be paddling with you, but tell our viewers and listeners what there is to offer down there, apart from your great sociability. Tell us all about it.
Well, to become a Cork Dragon, if you come paddling with the Cork Dragons, I don't think you want to paddle with anybody else, because first of all, we're all a bit mad. Second of all, we really love having fun. And third, we're really, really competitive when it gets down to it.
Right.
We all push each other in a good way, and paddling on the Lee, there is like no other place to paddle. It's actually, the things that you see on the water from the Lee are amazing. You might not see in any other sea. So for me, the Cork Dragons, all of us.
Okay, you heard it here first. Get yourself down to Cork Dragons. Go and see Mark. And when you normally paddle, so when do you normally paddle? I appreciate not at the moment, but when you're back on the water, when do you normally train?
We normally train on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and then at some weekends we might pick a Saturday or a Sunday. And if we train on a Tuesday, we normally try to keep the Thursday then for newer people, you know, so that we just gently ease them into showing them the mechanics of the board and how the body should be placed in the board, and you know how to work the water and stuff like that, and build up their confidence. And that's really what it's about. The Cork Dragons are really about helping people, and especially people that have been through illnesses. But it's not just for people that have with illnesses, it's for families as well. Family members can come along as well. And you know, we're always advocating that we need more men, because I could definitely do with another few men around, you know, and the team could do with a few more men around, because when we go to different regattas, we'll be able to compete in different sets of races, then different categories. It just doesn't have to be breast cancer. It can be the open category then as well. And you know, and that's basically it. The Cork Dragons we need more men to come out, but if you try it, you love it, and you'll never ever forget it.
You never look back. And I've got to say, if you have a read of, and what I will do is I'll when it goes out on YouTube, I'll have all the contact details, who to contact, your website. But just for the viewers and listeners, if you read the Cork Dragons website, it's fairly plain, and it comes through strong. That a very strong community and support nature. That comes through as a very key theme for what the club is all about. So that sounds like a fantastic setup you got down there. Last question from me, Mark. General question. Ask everybody. What makes you happy? I think I know, but what makes you happy?
What makes me happy? Honestly, what makes me happy is when my family are happy, my wife and my son, my wife Tina and Dylan, and my dog Buddy, who's asleep on the chair now. But in general, I'm a happy kind of go-lucky kind of guy anyway. It doesn't take a lot to make me happy, but one of my true loves of being happy is being on the water. I actually love it, adore it. It's just, you know, okay. That is one of the. It comes a second to my family, obviously, but like, it's my passion. I love it.
Wonderful. Okay, Mark, thank you. Hang on there. I'm going to knock the recording off. It's been an honour and a pleasure talking to you, and thank you, sir, very much. But hang on there for a minute. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Paddle Shanties. I think it's number 6. This is our Irish special, and I'm very pleased to welcome my good friend Lorraine Leonard to the programme. Lorraine's in Dublin and has been helping me out doing some online training over the last few weeks. I thought it was only right and proper to have a chat with Lorraine and tell us what's going on in Ireland, specifically in Dublin, and what's going on with you. So obviously you've been off the water for weeks, and I gather you've been getting out in 01s in the last few weeks. So tell me about that water.
Yeah, we were taken off the water, I think, on the probably 27th, the end of March anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And we were only allowed back on the water there the 18th of May, only if you have your own equipment or your own boat.
Yes. Yeah.
No sharing equipment like that. So I'm lucky enough to have my own 01,
yeah.
and lucky enough to have friends who are available who have 01s as well. So we're lucky we're on the dock. So the dock is not non-tidal. So we kind of can go out any day, really. There's not much to stop you going on the dock.
This is Dublin docks. In fact,
it's where the Dublin Regatta goes on.
Right, so I know that. Yeah, that's nice. I remember thinking when we were there in 2017, and we won, by the way, we won the competition. But anyway, apart from that, that's not about that. I remember thinking it was quite a nice place to paddle anyway, to come and paddle around. But I never actually got around to doing it, so perhaps fairly soon. So tell us about the different levels of paddling. So obviously there's one level, no paddling at all. This is the first level or the second level?
We're on phase 2 now, but basically it hasn't changed that much from phase 1. You're allowed back out on the water with your own equipment if you're within 5k of the water. You can only move 5k from your house. Now we've gone to 20k of your home. So it just means a few more people can make it to the water, really. Right, so what's phase 3 then? So what's if it all goes according to plan, what's phase 3 and when's that? Originally, we're kind of going quicker than we thought. Originally, we weren't supposed to be going officially, there was 5 5 phases.
Yes.
The last phase was going to be the end of August, 20th of August or something.
Wow.
But now they've pulled it back. They've taken out one of them, so they've brought it slightly closer to home. So the next change is on the 29th of June.
Yeah.
And then there's one more meant to be the 20th of July, but we'll see how it all goes.
And how does that change in terms of numbers of people? Because is there a maximum? You might have told me, but
yeah, sorry, that's the only difference actually. Up until now, you're allowed 4 people. From this week, you're allowed to have 10 people training together, assuming you're doing social distancing stuff.
Yeah. But when you think about it, 01 single boat.
Yeah, it's ideal social distancing. Yeah.
As long as you're sensible around the dock mounting area or whatever, then it's a fairly socially distanced activity anyway. When you think about it. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Once you can self-rescue, you're not allowed to teach any new people. You have to be able to self-rescue.
All right. Okay, fine. Incidentally, this is something I wrote by the by. I wrote it's got the Outrigger Basic Competency Test for the UK in 2017. It wasn't. I'm not quite sure what its status is. It's supposed to be incorporated, but it doesn't appear on any BDA policy documents. So, what do you do in terms of? I can easily share it with you. It's a fairly standard sort of thing. In fact, I borrowed a lot of it off British Canoeing because they did a really good document, and I just adapted it for dragon boaters. But how do you determine somebody is competent to paddle a 01 or an OC1?
I'm not actually sure about that at all because our club don't have any O1s of their own.
Ah, right.
So it's only if you have your own one. So basically, if you have your own one, somebody's given you a lesson who's used them prior. So it's all very learn as you go, really.
I'll tell you what, aside from anything, I'm going to send you this because I'd be interested any other 01 or OC1 paddlers to see what they think of it. A bit of peer reviewing, yeah? I mean, some of the stuff is fairly straightforward, but I remember doing this in 2017 and some of the people who, it sounds silly when I say it, but they were, even though they were experienced 01 paddlers, whatever that means, they didn't realise you could turn both ways. That's a silly thing to say, isn't it? But if you've been shown and somebody's been told you can only turn into the float, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I
didn't realise it sounds silly me saying this because this person was a GB paddler. I'm thinking, what? But things that you or I might say is common sense doesn't always translate across. Anyway, I'll send that to you because I'd be interested in anybody, you or anybody else, to peer review it and see what you think and give us your feedback. Yeah, that'd be good actually. Okay. Anyway, by the by, what brought you? Let's get back to the meat of the conversation. So here you are, Lorraine Leonard. I know you through a few things really. I saw you in Spain last year, but before that, Dublin Vikings.
I met you at the London Regatta. National
squad paddler. Tell us about that in a minute. So what brought you into 01 and more importantly dragon boat paddling? So how long have you been paddling dragon boats?
Okay, I was always relatively sporty all through life, but never really excelled in anything. I kind of just always potted around with different things. Like we would have had a kayak here when the kids were small just for playing around and nothing serious. Yeah. But in 2015, before that, I had seen dragon boating. I'd seen the Dublin Regatta they used to do a big corporate event in September. Yes. And I had seen it a few times and kind of was interested in it. Yeah. And then in 2015, my youngest was doing her leaving cert, which is the A levels, is it? O levels? Yes. And I decided I was going to find something for me that I'd kind of spent all my time.
In the me time, yeah.
Had some time for myself, so I decided to find a sport, and I just tried to look up. It just all happened around the same time. I looked up dragon boating. It took me a while to find a club in Dublin, and actually by chance they were having a meet-up the following Saturday. So I kind of thought it was an omen, and I just went along. I brought a friend along, of course, the first day, and she didn't take to it, but I just loved it from the start.
I think I said to you when we last spoke, I'm half Maltese. My mother was Maltese, and she would say it was meant to be, and maybe it was. That sort of thing. Okay.
All the signs are pointing.
Bit of serendipity has brought you to. I mean, it's interesting when you talk to people about how they actually get into the sport, especially if they come to the sport. I've been a kayaker for 30, 40 years, I suppose now, but I only got into dragon boating by accident because my son was a scout, and there's a scout's badge, and I've only got one scout's badge, and that's it. You see what I mean? That takes you on to different things. It's interesting that maybe you're not susceptible, you're just open in your life at that particular time. So you joined
Dublin Vikings. which is a great team. It's the only kind of non-cancer survivor related team in Dublin anyway, definitely.
Is it really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes. And it's a mixed team as well, so it's fun. It's just a fun sport. Dragon boating, it kind of brings a mix of people together, like from all different walks of life. And yet, when you're in the boat, you're always doing the same thing.
No, this is my sense of humour, because you said it's a mixed team, so it's fun. So if it wasn't a mixed team, it wouldn't be fun. That's a joke.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, right. But I mean, it's interesting you say that, because people do say, and especially those ladies who've paddled at higher level, the dynamic in a mixed team is very different. And as a coach, then in the main, not always, in the main, the way I think you get the best out of a ladies' crew is distinctly different to how you get the best out of an open crew, or it might be an all-male crew. In the majority of cases, not always. I mean, I'm not really inclined to do this, but you could if you wanted to. It's not great paddling or coaching. Take a few liberties with an open crew, and I've seen some people be quite abusive with open crews, and they perform in spite of you. You wouldn't do that with the average ladies crew. Well, you might do, but that'd be the last session you do. So what's the difference?
I've done both, actually. Like, the Irish team is a all-female team.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I would find, personally speaking, the females are probably easier to coach in a way that they will follow. I find they follow instruction better.
Yeah.
They will generally do what they're supposed to do. Like, kind of, if somebody says, kind of, do this 3 times over, they'll do it 3 times. Where a lot of guys will kind of think they know it already, don't have to do it 3 times because I know it the first time. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, in my 20s, I was a skydiver, and I knew everything. I just naturally, I was a natural skydiver. Everyone was. And the amount of money I spent, I was in Florida. I remember hundreds, if not thousands of dollars I spent learning the same thing again, because I knew better than the instructor. Yeah, absolutely. That's the male preserve. Yes, I think. But what else? Because I used to think that in terms of ladies' crews, but I agree. But what else is there? Is there another component? Now, yes, because that sounds like, I know you don't mean this. I'm saying this because it's an interview, but it sounds like you're saying to me that ladies are more inclined to follow instructions. I used to think that, but now I think they're slightly different. So is there any more? Is there more?
Just along personal, I would think, no, not that the guys don't follow instruction, but I just kind of feel, certainly in my experience, I feel that the kind of girls just do exactly what they're supposed to do.
Right. So who?
But no, I'm saying that they're not as easy to coach, because I know they will chat and they'll do things that the guys may not.
I mean, I know coaches. I know some international coaches, high-level coaches, who they don't refuse to coach women. It's not a misogynistic thing, but they are less comfortable coaching women. I'm more than happy, but I think the thing you have to do, what for me now, is you have to spend a lot of time building up the trust and confidence. Once you've got the trust and confidence of the crew, they will bend over backwards, and then I think that they're more inclined. But I think if you go into this is my experience. I'm not saying this is across the board. I think if you don't have the confidence of the crew, they won't follow you at all.
Exactly.
But once you've got that, and I found that with some breast cancer crews as well. Once you build up that relationship, they will interact and will get the best out of it. But if you haven't got that, it won't work. I don't know.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
But which do you prefer? I mean,
I couldn't answer that. They're both totally different. They're just different.
Good in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I've got to say, in the crews I've coached, I think you're right. I don't think I'd make a distinction between. I know performance-wise, you could measure performance differently in different ways, but each has its own unique aspects. Okay. Now, we mentioned before, you're an international paddler.
Yes.
Tell me the story of your international paddler, because it doesn't always come very easy to everyone, does it? So what was your?
No, it doesn't come easy at all. Actually, I started paddling in 2015.
Yeah.
And The European Championships were on 2016, I think they would have been. Yeah, so I was only paddling a short while, and then somebody said to me, would you try out for the Irish team? As you know, the sport's relatively new in Ireland.
Yeah.
So we only have one international team.
Right.
One team in general, and it is female. There's no other team around.
Oh, one crew. So there's one team, the crew as in an age category.
One ladies team represents all of Ireland. There's nothing else. And someone has asked me to try out for it then. Now, I knew at the time I was only just kind of new to paddling.
Yes.
But it's a senior A team, so it was kind of in the right age bracket.
Yeah.
And so...
I don't believe you, by the way, but okay, yeah. That was
basically, we...
final, yeah, right.
Yeah. How did I get into it? So anyway, basically I just tried out.
Yeah.
Tried out. I'm strong, like I'm kind of built, so I'm kind of strong. So kind of the O1 and all, or not the O1, the paddle machine, which is what I tried out on,
right,
would never really be a problem for me because of my strength.
Yeah.
And that is the only way you can get on the boat as such.
Okay.
Like for the training boat. Like there's no other way, as you say, like it's for 50 people to pick from. You can only train one boat at a time. So it's kind of basically the fastest on the O1 paddle machine.
Okay.
Or not O1 paddle machine, just.
Right.
That works. So yeah, so I tried out for the first year. I went down to all the training sessions, loved every minute of it. Didn't make it. Well, actually, I fell off my bike and broke my elbow. But apart from all of that,
that's not necessarily a good way to prepare for a national regatta. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I generally I wasn't experienced enough. I wasn't good enough. I kind of wasn't doing enough. But I really loved all the training. It really got me more into the dragon boating. It certainly brought out a competitive side that I never had before. I'm not a competitive person. I'm Libra, so I'm kind of well balanced in life in general. Right. And for some reason, dragon boating made me want to do something. It's probably the first thing that actually I've done in an awful long time that I felt I probably could do.
So just jump. I'll come back to internationals in a minute, but talking about signs of the zodiac. So if you're a Libra, you're a well balanced person, or whatever.
Yes.
So what would be the in your opinion the ideal dragon boat paddler? What star sign would they be?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know enough about star signs actually to know that.
I don't know. I never considered selecting people by that, but if it's a good method, I'll give it a go. Okay, so you didn't make it the team for 2016.
2016 was Rome. Yeah, I didn't make that, but I was kind of determined to keep going and try. Well, I still had my club team, which was good.
Yeah.
I still went back to my club team. We kind of trained. We did all the racing and everything as normal. Like in your club, you're just one of the paddlers. Like so you're back to just being normal in your other time, and then you're going into international squad.
And then suddenly, yes, you're star spangled. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you tried out again. So you didn't do the Worlds in 2017.
No, your Ireland doesn't go to the Worlds yet, actually.
Right. Okay. So it's a work in progress. Progress.
Yes.
So then 2018 would have been Brandenburg.
Yeah. So we had 1 year off, and then we went back to squad training again, just starting from scratch. Everyone starts from. I don't know how it works in the BDA, but everyone just starts from the beginning again, and you just try out, do whatever you need to do. And I made the team the second time around in 2018. I went to Brandenburg, and that was just amazing. I'd done London and all that, and we had done like the Vikings to do a bit of traveling. So we did the Vogelong in Venice in 2016.
Yes, the Vogelong, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And we've gone to NEC in France just for regatta. So we've kind of done a bit of traveling and seen bigger regattas than Ireland.
You've been to Annecy?
Yeah.
I love that place. I mean, because I like a bit of skiing, if you go to the Three Valleys and you fly into Geneva, I always stop off there because that's a fantastic summer location, and the water is so clear and pure. And it's a great winter location as well. Obviously, it's ideal for skiing. But okay, because there was a competition there last year or this year, or perhaps the Europeans were thought to be. I know they were going to be in where was it?
France.
Yeah, not Bridlevan. That's in the Three Valleys, wherever it was, and they cancelled it. But I thought at one stage they were going to do it on the Lake at Annecy as well. But then obviously,
that's where we paddled Lake Annecy. It's spectacular scenery around you. Actually.
Oh yeah,
We were in the regatta. It was beautiful. Yeah,
my son's got a good story about it. In the Hotel de Ville, the restaurant. I fed him snails when he was very young, and it took about 3 hours for him to eat them. But that's not important right now. But anyway, okay, so. So what's going on with Dublin Vikings at the moment? Because obviously you're edging back towards dragon boating at some stage in the future. So how are you keeping people motivated and mobilised? I know one thing, but I'm not really talking about that. But what other stuff?
Sorry, like, as you know, it's unfortunate because the season was just starting when all this COVID happened. So you know yourself, like everyone. But Vikings, because we're in the dock, as I said earlier, we can train. So we train through the winter.
Right.
We were kind of still going out as a team 3 times a week.
Oh, what?
So we kind of felt we were really ready for this season coming in, like, but all the as you know, everything has been cancelled. It's very difficult to keep things going. We don't have, well, you can't use clubhouses anyway, but we don't have clubhouse here.
Yeah.
So we did the Flying Fish International Challenge.
Yes.
Which actually was really good. It worked out really well because it got the team motivated. It got them chatting again, because you know yourself, if you haven't seen each other for a year, you can kind of dwindle off different directions quite quickly. Yeah. So I felt it was good kind of for bringing everyone back together again and kind of working as a team.
Well, it occurred to us, I mean, this is not an advert for that, but it did occur to us that with all the uncertainty in relation to, because I've said this to a number of people, and it's worth saying it to you as well, that, you know, the blessing of Dragon Boat is that you're all in the same boat and you're all working hard in each other's intimate or personal space. And the curse of Dragon Boat is exactly the same. And it did occur to me, or did occur to us here, that unless we do something like that to keep people motivated, keep people working together, all sorts of things, then people will drift off and do other sports. They might do stand-up paddleboard. Well, actually, I think the longer it goes on, I don't wish this, but I think there's a distinct possibility that people will drift away from dragon boating because they're just more accessible sports. And when you think about it, I like paddleboarding anyway, and I can blow up my paddleboard and go out and paddleboard now.
Yeah, a few of our crew have done that with the thing. They bought, a couple have bought paddleboards, a few have bought kayaks, or in the process of buying kayaks.
Yeah. I kind
of hope it's just still, once it's a water sport, you'll still come back to your club, I hope.
Well, that's right. And I think it just occurred to me that something like that's just one example of a challenge or stuff that keeps people involved. There's some clubs over here doing bingo challenges, pub quizzes, whatever it's going to, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be specifically paddle related, but just to keep people motivated that some time in their week is going to be Dublin Vikings, or it's going to be X Dragon Boat Club, just to get back together, talk to people. I mean, our national squad is not moving as a national squad. We've got Zoom sessions and that sort of stuff, and we had a meeting last week. But you know, people, if you don't remain relevant, I don't mean in sharp focus every day, then you might risk becoming irrelevant. You know what I mean? It depends. It depends on people's level of interest. I mean, the committed paddler is going to come back anyway, but just occurred to me. So what other stuff you're doing? I mean, obviously you're doing the stuff that we're doing, the Zoom sessions, that sort of thing. Any other stuff?
Yeah, that's it. Apart from that, we're just doing the Zoom sessions, as you know, kind of.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
But moving ahead, are you thinking in terms of diversifying, not necessarily from Dragon Boat? I mean, like I say, things like, do you think a bigger fleet of O1s or something, or anything like that, or any thoughts about how you're going to?
No, but actually I was talking to someone, I've talked to Caroline and Kilkenny last night, and we need to be looking at that. We need to be looking at where the club is going, because like this COVID thing, we don't know when it's going to end. Yeah. So you need to kind of start looking at other options.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of other, I mean, one of the things, it's no good to me here, but in Cyprus, for example, I've got a few boats out there, and including 3 they're XL paddle boards. So they're the paddle boards you can get about 12 kids on them, or you can
I've seen them actually, on the dock.
It's actually quite a good technique trainer. And when I get a chance to get over there, I'm going to bring one of the XL paddle boards back here and start doing paddle sessions, because you can either do them paddling it as a paddle board with a long paddle, or you can paddle it high kneel. You could paddle it sit down. It's actually quite a good. Yeah, moving one of those through the water is quite a
task.
Yeah, you see what I mean? But it's good though. You've got to move the boat, because other stuff we do, we paddle a raft. I'm not a rafter, but it's a lump of metal and bean cans, but it needs some
force,
force and technique more than force to get it moving. But it's still paddling. It's still paddling a boat, and I'm not going to give up dragon boating, but it's still another possibility. Okay, so part of this is to encourage other people to join Dublin Vikings and depending where they are in Ireland, dragon boating. So given just your experience of bringing people in, so after you've had, you said to me that you're sporting in your earlier life, then other life stuff, family, that sort of stuff, and then you're coming into the sport from what I presume what you say to me in your 40s. So how would you, if you were recruiting other people, either your situation, or how would you go about reaching out to them?
Well, the thing is, like, for one, as a team sport, it's really good because the boat everyone has to work together to get the boat to move.
Yes.
There's no one person who is the kind of main player and you're all kind of rolling up behind them.
Yeah.
Like, the whole team has to work together. So I like that part of it, is that, like, if you win or lose a race, it is no one person's fault.
Yeah, pure team sport. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole team sport. And also, there's also something lovely about being on the water, as you know yourself. If you're on the water, like, you kind of forget everything else that's going on in your life because you have to concentrate on what you're doing.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it's a great kind of escapism as such from your real life, basically, I suppose. It's kind of
but unlike watching a film, it's actually
the water
productive
out there.
escapism.
Pardon?
Unlike watching a film, maybe it's productive escapism.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you were summing, I'm going to put it on the spot now. If you were summing up, say, 2 or 3 or whatever number you want, just what are the key? For you, what is the key difference between Lorraine post taking up dragon boating and pre taking up dragon boating? What's the key things? So if you just send a short message to somebody to recruit them. There's a big dog behind you, by the way. It might have been a polar bear. I don't know. It looked like a big white thing. What were those? What would it be?
I suppose up until now I was kind of a mother, kind of just doing things. Like, I worked part-time as well, so I was kind of just taken up with life in general, just busy doing things for other people. With the dragon boating, I just found it was something that I was doing for me, like, away from everybody else as such. So it kind of was just kind of basically finding yourself again, kind of thinking.
Okay, so readers, I'm just thinking this could be a poster, a recruiting poster. There's you just reminded me of something. It's either a Latin or Italian phrase, and it says something along the lines of, as long as you live, learn how to live. But there's another one that says something like, if you spend your time keeping the world in place, as in like being a mother, you have to also keep your place in the world.
Yeah, very good.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's your particular time. So I don't think you, as a mother, I don't think you've lost yourself, but you've rediscovered something a bit more personal. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about sort of what we're doing here is writing a recruiting poster for Dublin Vikings or paddling generally. So okay, well, that's one. So something about place in the world and rediscovering or discovering. So something else. Give me another theme.
Well, also it's a way of keeping active, but certainly in Dublin, because you can do it all year long.
Yes.
It's actually it's a cheap sport, as you know yourself, to get into. Like, the kind of, you literally only have to buy yourself a BA, a buoyancy aid.
Yeah.
Paddle.
Okay, here we are again after a short break. Lorraine, we were talking about not so much you as a poster child for Irish dragon boating, but how we would encourage people into the sport. And what you came up with before we had a short break was, it's a team sport, so literally you're all in the same boat. It's a productive or constructive form of escapism, so you might leave whatever daily issues at the gate, have a paddle, have a good time, then come back to your issues, or maybe they're slightly diminished somewhat. And then you also talked about what I'm going to paraphrase into refining yourself, as in making yourself better, and refinding yourself after a period away, in your case, childcare, family. And you also mentioned it's an all-round, in Ireland certainly, an all-round activity apart from high winds or tidal waves or stuff. Yeah. So what else do you think you might use?
Well, I suppose with dragon boating is, it's a relatively new sport to everybody, basically, when you start doing it. Yeah. So, like, you're all starting off at it, like you start off as a new person, and it's not a big deal. Like, people aren't doing it for the last 10 years before you. So it's kind of technically wise. Yeah. Like, it's not too bad to be coming in as a brand new person.
Oh, right. So even those who've been doing it a huge amount of time, it's not necessarily a huge amount of time in Ireland? Because it's only been going 8 years, 9 years, something like that. I think 2012 maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Something around that sort of.
I think it's probably 10 years. I think it is actually probably. I think we're about 10 years old.
Before we start, you talked about something in relation to how sociable people were, and the sort of.
Yeah, that's the thing about dragon boating. It seems to it takes a huge mix of people, like from all different jobs, walks of life, everything, ages. Like our team runs from probably 20-year-olds up to 60 plus. Like, there is no age limit or ability wise, regardless of your age on it. And it's also a very social sport. Like, kind of most dragon boat. Like, I've met so many people around Ireland and Europe, the world. Like, kind of that you actually really keep in touch with still. Like, you do get a connection with them.
Yes. Yeah.
They seem to be kind of very, apart from outdoorsy, they're probably outgoing people as well that mainly do dragon boating.
Yeah.
And even if you're not that outgoing, like the team will pull you along. Like, kind of, it's just a very social sport. Like, it's certainly when, like with Dublin Vikings, which I know is with a lot of clubs as well. Like, after our training session, we go for coffee together, we go for brunch together. So it's kind of, it's not just.
We go for a beer. Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
But it is, isn't it? It is a very sociable sport. I mean, lots of sports are sociable, but because people are not quite crammed, but sat in the same boat, it always used to surprise me. There weren't more disagreements actually, because you're in the same space, you're in the same personal, same intimate space.
Yeah.
But occasional flare-ups, but that tends to be something somebody has brought in the boat from the days somewhere else. The gate. But it is. I mean, when you say you travel the world, have the opportunity to do that, and you'll tend to find a friendly dragon boat club wherever you go, in the vast majority.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to your international endeavours. You left us when we were talking about you. You tried to get into the team for Rome 2016. Didn't quite make it on that occasion, but then come 2018, you tried again, and you had a measure of success, did you not?
Yes.
Tell us about that. Tell us about your
which was the first huge success. Getting to get the green jersey was a great honour. Also, I kind of have put so much into it. I kind of felt that kind of sheer determination and grit force should have got me there, if nothing else.
What was different?
So when we went to Brandenburg, Brandenburg's a brilliant competition. There was we were in the senior A category.
Yes.
But it's great seeing all the teams from all over. Like, it's supposedly Europe, but from Russia, everyone was there. Like, it's not just European competition. And as you say, you start off kind of nervous anticipation because you don't know. Like, you've put all the training in, and yes, you feel your team are good enough, or your coach feels your team is good enough. But until you get your first race out of the way, you don't actually know how you are in standing, like against other countries and other major teams. So.
I mean, as you say, it's a great level, because the first major competition I did in dragon boat, we went abroad and we thought we were going to do really well, and it became very obvious from the first race that team was not going to do very well. But we had it was a good trip. But it's also a
good leveler, as you say. It's good kind of
like,
especially certainly in Ireland, where kind of there's I think there's about 16 teams now, but when it comes to competitions, there's probably 4 that are always in the finals. So you kind of get used to just being in that kind of nearly know your place as such.
Yes.
Like, you're kind of always trying to get that a little bit better, but you're in kind of this little niche where when you go away, you actually see what real racing is all about. And
how about actually mixing with the other nationalities? Because I've seen in world competitions, you'd imagine, say, the US and Iran on the political front might be at odds, but paddlers are paddlers, and paddlers talk. China, Taiwan. Paddlers they just get on. It's another paddler.
And the water makes people happy in general.
Yeah. Okay. So what was different? I mean, apart from you said obviously you got into the team in 2018, but what was different about your training in 16 and 18?
Well, the training is always the same. Mick Doyle is the coach, and he is quite disciplined in what we do. Like, kind of the training is tough going. Like, you certainly, like, you start, like, at the beginning, you start off with a much higher number of people going for it, and then people whittle out depending on their own determination or whatever. And the training is quite hard, but like, you've worked, which is kind of great. Like, the thing is, you deserve to be there. Like, you don't just get there because you know somebody on the team. You kind of have to really deserve your spot on the team.
Yeah. Okay. So we build up a esprit de corps, and obviously, yes, very few that I can think of international paddlers get in to the national team straight away. More often than not, then we try a few times, actually understand what it's all about, and then come back a second time with a bit more knowledge, wisdom, a little bit more commitment. Once you've and you get a measure of success, or whatever success you get, and you only think about the success, you don't think about the long tail of sometimes disappointments behind it that lead towards it. But in your case, you come back with some medals, did you not? Have you got your medals there?
Yes, we did really well.
Coming in to
I
see
have my medals here with me. We won 4 medals.
4 medals.
4
right.
silver.
Okay. Which competitions?
4 silver medals. We came second to Germany every single time. Like Germany, as you know, are machines. So
Germany's always going to be strong. Germany anywhere is going to be strong. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of definitely, they're just machines basically. Yeah, that's all you can say.
I mean, it's interesting.
But we put it up some. We put it up some big time. Although we knew they were going to get us, we kind of constantly fought. Like we made them earn the place as much as we had to earn our own place.
And over the years, I've known a few of the German teams, and they don't take anything for granted. They're a strong team, and you could even just looking at the boats, you can see the wave pattern going down the boat, how efficient it is. Good, beautiful. Ukrainian boats the same, very, very, very impressive wave pattern, and they can be doing the same stroke rate. I remember seeing them against the ladies British. It might be Brandenburg. It was a final, I think, and they beat the British team. It was might have been the ladies 10 actually, and both doing 78 strokes a minute, because I measured both of them, and the efficiency of the
they don't drop at all.
You can see
they don't drop at all.
The transfer of power is just and so it's impressive, and it is impressive, and it's a lot of work goes into it. Okay. So you're now an international athlete, international medal-winning athlete.
Absolutely,
so it's the sky's the limit, isn't it? Once you get into the sport, once you get committed, once you get stuck into it, put the training in, then really you're limited by your imagination, you're limited by your aspiration, are you not? And you're limited by your commitment to a certain extent as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Last little point. Now you're an 01 paddler. So an 01, for those who don't know the 01s, 01s is a British and Irish thing. It's a converted kayak. Pretty much an OC one, but less balanced in terms of, with an OC one, you're sitting at the point of balance, not so with the 01 necessarily. So how do you train your 01 people in Ireland?
Well, that's a little bit on the vague side, actually. Certainly in our club, we don't have a clubhouse, so therefore we don't have, we have our big boats, but we don't have any space to have 01s.
Right.
So anyone in the club who has an 01 has bought their own.
Right.
So literally, you are just basically self-trained, I should say. Like certainly when I got mine, one of the girls from Carlo who had one beforehand, she kind of gave me a few little quick lessons in it. Right. But as you say, it's literally just trial and error. You get into the boat knowing you could possibly fall out and just hope for the best when you're in there.
So, I mean, have you ever I'm sure you've capsized.
Yeah, once. It's actually, my funny story about that is, I constantly get into the boat thinking I'm going to fall out.
Yeah.
And then I met one girl on the side who said, no, that's wrong. You never fall out of them. And that very day, I was racing the girl who had taught me originally, and literally I did ready, attention, go, and flipped.
Yeah.
So you have to always remember.
Has everybody told you how to safely capsize an 01?
No, never. Actually, I read your sheet you put out, your points, and actually it's very interesting. I certainly would give that to other members in our team who are starting out.
Yeah. I'm very interested, because I'm interested in it being peer reviewed, because I think that should be the standard. But what I'm interested in is other people who use 01s. If that's, I mean, it doesn't have to be a standard. People can do what they want. But I'm mildly concerned that throughout the UK and Ireland, people are paddling these boats. And if you joined a canoe club or a kayak club, one of the first things you do is learn some basic strokes, and then if it was warm enough, learn how to self-rescue yourself, self-recover yourself and your boat. Not necessarily first session, but fairly early on. It's a fundamental part of it, and we don't do that in.
No, there's nothing. No.
So I'm sort of. It's not. I'm not on any mission. I'm interested in whether there's any traction in. It's just another. It's a little competency test, isn't it? So basically, somebody comes to your club, my club, any club, and says, right, I want to start paddling in 01. So there you are. Here's a course of instruction. We'll take you through it. And when you can demonstrate you can do this, and this, then you're good to go.
You're competent.
That's it. Just that sort of thing. And the things about sort of making sure the boat is waterworthy, etc., etc. Okay, just interested in anybody's viewpoint on that, because everyone who paddles in 01.
No, it's very good, because as you say, the turning of the boat, like I would generally turn in the outrigger side and can turn quite gracefully and quickly that way. But I did one 10k race in my 01 here in Ireland last year. We were due to do it in March and it was postponed, of course. And I went down for a trial, lucky enough, and actually they turned the opposite way. Yeah. So I was thinking, again, kind of just suddenly everything is wrong when you try to turn the opposite way. So it's kind of good to even make that point that everyone needs to turn both ways. Yeah.
And when you paddle it, do you paddle it both sides?
No. I always stay on I'm a left-hand paddler, and occasionally in the winter time, certainly after the international training, I will kind of go right again just to kind of give my body a bit of a break. Yeah. But in general, I stay on the one side. Do you think you should change over?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. I'll come and run a course. It's amazing what you can do with them. Actually, it's a bit of a thrown together boat. It does the job, and it does the job well. But you can do it. You can paddle it with the armour in the air. You can do all sorts of things. You can, it's with a little bit of technique. It's a boat, isn't it? So it's a boat. So yeah. Okay. Well, let's leave it there. One more question for you, and I asked you this last time, and then we had to sort of had to have a break. What makes you happy? What makes Lorraine happy? Last question.
As I said the last time, in general, I'm generally happy disposition anyway. I'm a Libra, as I said, so that makes me generally nice and balanced in life, in everything. But currently what I'd say basically is I'm most happy on the water. Okay. And much as I love my family, they know that too, actually. For Mother's Day this year, my daughter and son bought me a coordinates map of the dock for my happy place.
Absolutely. Well, actually, which to anybody else would sound, that's a bit unusual, but no, I get that 100%. That's the sort of thing I'd really appreciate that as a present. Okay, Lorraine, Leonard, my friend in Dublin, thank you very much. See you very soon. Stay on there. I'll have a chat when I turn the recording off, but thank you for your time and thank you for your interesting story. See you later.